You're listening to Love Talk Live with the relationship expert, Jaime Bronstein, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to Love Talk Live. Today we have a wonderful show because I have a wonderful human being with me. This is Dr. Mike Sinel.
Hello.
Hello. And he is a pain doctor, and he also works a lot with mindfulness.
Yes.
And I have his bio to read to you because he's extraordinary. So, Dr. Michael Sinel is an assistant clinical professor at the UCLA Department of Medicine. Right after the completion of residency at New York Hospital, Cornell University Medical Center in New York City, he received board certification in physical medicine and rehabilitation. Dr. Michael Sinel is an expert on spinal disorders and back pain, and has authored and published multiple books on pain disorders, back pain therapy, rehabilitation, yoga, and meditation. So if there's anybody out there who has a bad back or anything that's hurting, mind, body, and soul, please contact Dr. Michael Sinel, and we are going to do this show and kind of incorporate the science and the medicine into the mindfulness and the heart, and we're just going to dive in. But before we do that, Dr. Michael Sinel, I can call you Michael.
Michael.
Assuming. Michael. Would you like to tell us about the work that you do in general?
Sure. So it varies. I mean, traditionally, I treated a lot of bad backs. I was trained, I had the good fortune to be under a mentor who was one of the pioneers in mind-body medicine, John Sarno. He passed a few years ago, but he sort of he went a bit against the mainstream in Western medicine. He was a professor at NYU, and he came up with a syndrome called tension myalgia syndrome, which essentially was a way to look at many of the pain problems we see, especially related to back pain, neck pain, chronic pain, and related to stress. So he really he described the syndrome where stress can cause back pain, neck pain, and he went on to describe it as playing a role in many aspects of pain. And he was a purist, and he described a psychophysiologic mechanism whereby underlying emotions and unresolved deep conflicts can manifest in your body and create symptoms and serve as a distraction to some of the things. So I took up that work, but I was very traditionally trained as well. My partners were all spine surgeons. I was part of a big spine center in LA for many years. And, you know, I always integrated sort of mind-body aspects into my treatment and addressing a whole person. And in my own life, I've been practicing yoga for 25 years. I got into mindfulness meditation in the last 10. So I see it as applicable in everything from a health perspective, especially in chronic problems. I mean, an acute problem sometimes, you know, someone throws out their back. It could be very straightforward, put on some ice and rest for a day and stretch. But in more chronic conditions, the mind tends to play a big role.
And I love how you're bringing the science and the spiritual, like mind-body aspects all together, because I feel like there aren't enough doctors out there that are doing that. They're like just science. And so I think it's so beautiful how you're bringing kind of the two worlds together, and you're really helping people in such a different, progressive, more modern way.
Yeah, I mean, I think medicine is evolving in moving towards a more integrative model, because certainly there's a lot of ancient wisdom from other cultures and Eastern medicine that has value and has worked for many years, and Western medicine has a lot of incredible scientific advances over the years. But I think more and more, somewhat due to the internet and the availability of information and the movement of the public in wanting to expand from traditional medical approaches, and the failure of medicine in many, many areas, like chronic pain, they're all aware of the opioid crisis, like mental health, which we have a disaster in our society, and depression and anxiety. These things really can't be approached typically, or shouldn't be solely approached in I would call it a bit of an old traditional Western model with medications, treating symptoms. You have to look at root causes. So the evolution of functional medicine, which looks at root causes, looks at nutritional, looks at mind-body, looks at spirit, is just critical. And I brought it into the medical school. I teach electives to first and second year medical students, including mindfulness, meditation, and medicine, and yoga therapy as a tool. And most of them need it for their own self-care, because that's another problem. Doctors and their own self-care.
So with your work in mindfulness, and to bring it into LoveTalk Live, and to bring it into the field of love, I was thinking that we could kind of talk about how do we bring mindfulness into relationships. The first thing that came up to me was that, to me, mindfulness means being present, being in the moment. And in relationships, that is ideal.
Yes.
It is so important. And so I was wondering, do you have any experiences with, whether it's your own life or with your clients, where you've found that either you or they have become more present by practicing mindfulness, and then the relationships have gotten better?
Okay, so I'll try and make that bridge from medicine to LoveTalk, and there's something there's probably one very pertinent doctor who's been a bit of a game changer. So you may know the name Dean Ornish. So Dean Ornish was a Stanford cardiologist who did some of the initial work on cardiac disease. This will circle to love, because I know that's where we need to go.
No,
but
do you know what? Our viewers are intelligent, and they love learning, and they want to know everything.
Okay.
But thank you for bringing it to
and
love.
Even before, come to think of it, now that I'm talking about love, even before Dean Ornish was Bernie Siegel, who was a Yale cancer surgeon who wrote a book, Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And I was fortunate enough to hear some of his lectures back when I was in training many moons ago. And again, just talked about the role of love in healing, and in, why do some people survive cancer? And why do some people get it quicker? And love, although we can't necessarily easily study it in a laboratory, we could study it in an observational sense. So to jump to Dean Ornish, who was a cardiologist and looked at people with heart disease, and in the old days, heart disease, well, still presently, was treated with medications and coronary bypass surgery, angioplasties, etc. Well, he started to look at other factors, including nutrition and group therapy, and human aspects like love and intimacy. And he wrote a number of books, and he actually proved scientifically that his approach in double-blind studies comparing nutritional and lifestyle changes, he had yoga, meditation, he had groups, as compared to coronary bypass surgery, angioplasty, I believe, worked just as well, if not better.
Wow.
And was revolutionary in that he actually got these programs accepted, published in medical journals, but also paid for by insurance. Even though, I have to say, the world of cardiologists traditionally across Western medicine still sort of default to the basic, let's do medicines, let's do an angioplasty. And it's very tricky in Western medicine, because we have a for-profit model, and some things like group therapy and meditation and yoga don't really pay the bills if you're a big hospital system or a doctor practicing. So, but many people have adopted Dean Ornish's. He's done a number of studies on the role of love and intimacy in healing and in heart disease.
Yeah, I 100% believe that love heals.
Yes.
Starting from loving yourself.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and then obviously having support, being in a loving relationship can absolutely change the outcome of a disorder, a disease.
Yes, and dis-ease. And what we also know and have observed quite clearly is it can cause it, the break of it. So if you look at stress,
cortisol,
it's really fascinating if you look at studies on couples who lose a spouse, especially elderly couples who've been married for life, how soon after the surviving spouse dies.
Yeah, they say
it's a broken heart.
It's a broken heart. but it's so rich. So rich that, and this is the work that I'm doing. I'm researching couples. I'm studying soul-connected couples, and as much as our love for ourselves sustains us, and you need that to attract that soul-connected relationship, I'd say, after all those years and all those years of being together in that soul-connected relationship, I totally buy into dying of a broken heart. I mean,
oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm romantic, but yes. And from your point of view, I love that this doctor is saying it can happen.
Sure. I mean, we see it all the time. And a part of my pain population, we would end up getting pretty deep into what's going on in their life. And the amount of people that end up with chronic pain disorders and many things, just a whole host of medical illnesses, from gastrointestinal to respiratory to fibromyalgia to all sorts of chronic pain syndromes. And the ones who fail surgery, you look at the history, just speaking to the mind-body connection of who weren't loved right and who had abuse. And it's outstanding correlations.
And they hadn't done the work to resolve those issues yet.
Yes, and those issues play deeply into it's like dis-ease, right? Their soul is playing a role. I mean, we use terms that we are limited to a little bit, but mind-body connection, soul, love, but we certainly could look at it and see examples of how it's affecting our health. And I think most of us, have had our own personal experiences. If you're in love, you feel vibrant and healthy, and your body is ticking differently. And
the oxytocin is flowing. Yeah, it's almost like you feel high on life. That's what happens at the beginning of a relationship.
Yeah, and
it's natural. It's organic.
Yeah. And when you have a broken heart, which I've certainly had, you get sick. Your immune system goes down. Your immune system goes down. And yes.
So I would say, from this conversation, my message to all of our viewers is to really just be conscious and take care of yourself. Be aware if your cortisol levels, your anxiety is high, because it can make a disease. You can have an immune disorder, and just overall, you're not going to be showing up in your relationship, or if you want to manifest a relationship, just not healthy mind, body, and soul.
Right. So I want to make a comment, because obviously not everyone is in a perfectly loving relationship.
And that's why I'm doing the documentary that I'm doing. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So what I want to say is, what we understand, that role of an ability of love to heal, right? Love to heal. It doesn't necessarily have to be the perfect relationship partnership, right? So just like puppies and kittens do really well for people in terms of the emotions that get generated and the experience of love, like wherever you can ground in yourself to feel love, because we all have it within ourselves, it's an energetic, and to get quantum on us, we're all just energy and beings of light. Absolutely. Right? So, and there's probably, or for me, there's definitely only love and fear at the core of our interconnectedness, right?
There is.
So if you're ticking from love in whatever way, could be in your religion, love of God, right? It could be love of nature. It could be with your pets, with your children, with friends, with work. I think your body is much more positioned to naturally heal.
I totally agree. And I feel like when all of those things are coming together and you're feeling grounded and you're feeling centered and you're feeling whole, then you have the best chance to not get sick. Like, you have the best chance to operate in this world as authentic as possible, and just when you're taking care of yourself and it's all flowing well, your relationships get better. I'm also writing a book about manifesting love. So, it's all when you have it all together, but not in a ego together. Like,
right.
I got my hair done and went to the gym. It's not, it's not an aesthetic level, but when you have it all together, in your mind, body, and soul all together. You just show up, and that person is just going to be, is going to show up for you.
Sure. I mean, when you say an ego sense, it's true. We know from ourselves when we look in the mirror the difference between loving ourselves at a soul level versus feeling our ego.
Yeah.
And if you love yourself at a soul level and make an environment conducive to that in whatever setting with whatever tools you need, and everyone has to find their own medicines. You know, it's not mindfulness for everyone. It's not yoga, maybe whatever it might be, right?
Whatever
Some
it is,
meditate more, some do other things, but they have to find a place to go in and be quiet and go into the now. I mean, which is mindfulness, but I think we have to spend our life learning to self-soothe and getting to know ourselves and our truth.
And I love that you're bringing this up, because I was just at a class the other day, and we were talking about how exactly what you're saying. It doesn't have to be just one way. You know, like, it's kind of like when do you find yourself at your most peace? That is how you cultivate your mindfulness. It could be listening to music, or it could be meditating. Mm-hmm. It could be dancing. You know, like, when do you feel connected to your soul?
Right.
And that's how you cultivate it, and that's how it grows, and your connection to yourself grows.
Mm-hmm. And the more that connection grows, the more it expands to other people, and the more you're capable of bringing it into other people in a functional way. I mean, it's sort of easier to get into a relationship in the romantic phase of love than stay in a long-term functional relationship, which I haven't done, but I think I'm ready for now. But in any case,
well, you have been married.
Oh yes, I've been married, but I'm saying, yeah, I mean, I haven't hit the, like my parents are married.
50-year mark.
Yeah.
My parents are going on 48 years, and just beautiful to watch.
Yeah, it's amazing.
However, you're working on getting out there again.
Yeah, it's, I mean, you know, it's working on myself and loving myself more, but I think that translates into it. Like, you know, I think I always saw partnership in retrospect pretty clearly as filling something in myself, right?
Yes.
And it's not for that, really.
No.
So I think we meet people basically where we are. Our capability of relationship equates to our own consciousness, and how, you know, the amount we love ourselves is probably somewhat equivalent to how much we could love someone else. And it really only shows up when things are not going well. I mean, when me and my friends talk about it, or I know someone young, like in a serious relationship, and they're like, oh,
you're young.
I'm young, yes. But I mean, a bit younger than me.
Younger.
I mean, going through their first, like, hopefully not first divorce, which seems to be real common for many people, including myself in LA. But I say, you know, just to try to learn from my past mistakes. It's not necessarily how you do in love, and it's how what shows up when you're in conflict with the person. If you really want to know the essence of how you're going to do, right? It's how you deal with conflict, because it's always, I mean, I doubt there's any relationships that don't go through conflict, right?
Right. That would just be incredibly surface, and if it works for them, that's great.
Yeah.
But it's not authentic.
Sure. And I was, I loved the romantic love phase, and I've been blessed to be in love a few times, but I ultimately didn't have the tools and understanding to understand what it takes for long-term commitment, and that is more about self-love and respecting someone else, being on their path, and having common values, etc.
And we attract people, they are a reflection of our inside experiences and our inside reality. So it makes sense when everybody looks back on their exes.
Yes.
If you really understood it in that concept, it would make sense why you attracted those people. But when you do that work to really get to your inner core and show up as completely me, like, this is, I'm raw, like, this is me. Don't disclose too much on that first date. But in general, just, it's an essence. It's a peacefulness inside that you show up with.
Yes. I think, relationship obviously gives the best opportunity to grow, right?
Yes.
So you brought up, me and a few friends were talking the other night, which I mentioned to you prior, and
Love it.
Everyone's looking for their pot. I mean, it's whatever. It was a bunch of divorced guys, to be honest with you, but really great guys, super successful, and everyone's sitting there about, I want to meet my next one, and da-da-da, and I'm sitting there saying, like, hearing, like, what everyone's looking for, like, what type, which is normal to a degree, but I was sitting there sort of describing, like, my shift from what was always looking at what I need in someone in my list of priorities to my priority is my own growth. And I said, come on, guys, we're all pretty crazy in terms of, like, our expectations. Like, no 10 girls in one could meet any of our expectations, because look how we are with ourselves, So it's really, connect on the major things, like have someone with similar values, really core similar values to you, and self-reflective, and you do your own work. If you see a soul connection, do your own work and worry about that.
Yeah, and it's about just checking in with yourself when you're in the person's presence and really just being cognizant. How do I feel with them? So if they don't love the Cubs, like I do, just little things like that, I could let that go because I feel at home with this person, and that's ideal.
Right.
So, and I know in our discussion about his discussion with his friends, we were talking about how, nobody is going to literally fulfill everything you're looking for. However, like you said, tap into your heart.
And
how do you feel?
That's where mindfulness comes in. I mean, it's just the awareness
being here,
of yourself and being present. And if you're present with someone and we all get triggered all the time. We're like one big, like, set of tentacles, right? Oh, someone said that. I don't like that. They're not good enough for me. And instead of doing that, like, remembering, hey, that person has great values and is a good soul, and I was excited enough to be here at this point in what I saw in them. So instead of looking at what's wrong with them now or judging it, look at why it's triggering me and what growth I could have in that. And these happen to be a bunch of dads I was sitting with who were single, divorced dads.
Hope you guys are watching.
And they're amazing dads. And so I was sitting there saying, look, you know how we are with our kids? Like, we love them, adore them. They're all great dads. I'm like, but it's not like what we're getting back all the time. It's not always conditional like it tends to be in male-female relationships. I go, so if we could move in that direction a little bit, like we look at our kids and say, what an amazing soul. And we let a lot, it's not that we let it slide, we have no choice because we love them to death, right?
They're just so cute.
So I said, if you find someone with great values who has a great soul, why not think of them as like, that's a great soul, so whatever's being triggered in me, let it be part of my work. And again, the more mindful you are with yourself and have those pauses and check in with yourself and watch when your emotions get thrown off, like, what is that in me? It's the opportunity to grow. I mean, all human relationships are the most complicated thing in the world, right? So I was listening to Eckhart Tolle yesterday on some podcast, and he was saying, like, it's all growth. The more difficult they are, the more opportunity to grow. So take it like that.
School's in session when you get triggered.
Right.
But I love that you brought up the child, because it's also about, if you can look at how you feel in the presence of that unconditional love towards your child, and if you can apply that to yourself, that unconditional love towards yourself, you will be more able to apply that to the person that you're with. If you feel that soul connection. I mean, we can apply unconditional love to anybody, but especially if you're feeling it, if you're feeling that, then don't let the other, well, they don't like the same restaurant as I do, or they don't like to go mountain climbing, or whatever. Those things, and this is essentially what you guys were talking about the other night, that you reported to me, that I feel like there are missed opportunities where people, and but at the same time, it's their own unresolved issue to be like, I'm going to push that person away.
100%. You say feel that soul connection, but I feel like, I mean, if I look back on my life, there were probably an amazing amount of people that I didn't allow that to evolve because I was looking at more superficial things and needs. I was in the ego. I was looking at my list and seeing if they met them. I was looking for the chemistry, and I wasn't allowing the connection to start with, like, how's that as a human being? You know, they have a big heart, they're soulful, they're amazing, they're self-reflective, they're on their own path. We have similar values. Like, focus on that first, and then see,
Yes.
let the rest evolve, you know?
So I was doing an interview with this couple today, and they said it so beautifully that it's like the Greek eros. At the beginning of a relationship, you feel this eros. That's the honeymoon stage. That's the oxytocin. It's going, and you're just like, life is amazing. How could this ever stop? You know. And then there's, I think, philos. I can't remember exactly what it's called. That comes in, and then ultimately, when two people are supposed to be together, it's the agape. It's that soul connection. We came here. Sometimes these couples that I interviewed, they can't even explain the why. It's just the is. It's the is.
Yeah.
It just is. And you just feel it.
I also buy into, and I think I may have mentioned this to you as well, that I think it's a bit of a decision. I don't, you know, in other words, like, it's a decision to say I'm going to look for someone's soul. And I've been in the romantic love and I loved it, but in retrospect, it may have started from, wow, look at that person. And
Like
I have
just attraction.
that lust draw usually starts a lot of relationships. And I don't say it's bad, but it's very, you justify a lot of other things and you don't necessarily explore the soul. And if you look at traditions around the world and set up marriages, right? Cultures that are still doing that,
yes.
right?
Fascinated.
You know, and some of these people are together 50 years and in love and forever, right? I mean, it's not like we're doing better in America. So I think it's a decision to, you know, you see people learn to love each other and decide to love each other and grow into love and have children and build a life. And then it's like, yes, I love this person. I
love that you're bringing this up, because when I was in graduate school, there was a lady who had been, she was an Orthodox Jewish lady, and she was 42 and she just had a grandchild because she was fixed up at 18 or whatever it was. And she was very distraught because her husband had some issues and she just wasn't happy. And not that somebody can't have issues, but just at a soul level, she felt like she just wasn't supposed to be with him. They were fixed up many years ago. But according to just the culture and everything, I don't think she probably was ever going to get a divorce, you know? And so that's an example of, there were two people that were fixed up, that they might be together forever, surviving, not thriving. However, I really would love to do some studies on these people that are just fixed up. And thrive. Yeah, because there are so many also. And I think that it is so beautiful. But just like any of our relationships where we're not set up, you know, by our religion or our culture, in both situations, you can have couples that are surviving and you can have couples that are thriving. Right, and it just seems there's a lot more surviving than thriving in general. Yes. Although I'm very optimistic, but I think it's... Mike is going to invite us all to his future wedding. Yes, hopefully. I'm going to sing a song. So, you know, you look at that song from Fiddler on the Roof. Do you love me? Remember that? You may not know it. I love a love song. Okay. But it's basically, it was, you know, it was people who were set up. And she's singing in the song. I won't sing because I wouldn't put anyone through that. But it's like, for 25 years, I've washed your clothes, did the dishes, cleaned the house, gave you children, blah, blah, blah. And then she says, if that's not love, what is? So, I don't know. It's sort of, what is it? Is it the romantic thing? It's all love. I mean, I think people could find partnership. If you have your best friend that never went through... I've met some people who, I mean, again, have been together many years, and they never went through the romantic love phase, and they're in love now, and they've raised children, and they're best friends. Can I interview them? They're best friends. Yeah, I'll ask. You know, so I don't know. I don't think there's necessarily one formula, but certainly... I think we're a very self-society. What do I need? It's about me, and what's my list? And if we use it to grow and consistent with our bigger values in life, I mean, look, any two people put together want to stay together forever and build a family, it's work.
And there's enormous growth if you're going to do it right.
My mom has always said there are a lot of moons to get over, so be over the moon for the person.
Right. And Harville Hendricks' work, I'm sure you talk about, getting the love you want, I remember working with a couple a couple of the therapists did a workshop with them with an old relationship of mine, and I was talking to them because I got pretty friendly with them, and they were married quite a long time, and they were both teachers, right? They were both therapists teaching that.
Love it.
And they were saying, like, you think there's times we don't want to kill each other? You think there's times we weren't on the brink? And they were
right.
like, we're committed to that. It's work. Relationship is the opportunity to grow and heal our own inner child wounds, et cetera, et cetera. So.
And this couple that I interviewed today, who are incredibly in love, they've been married for about 20 years, and they actually spoke a lot more than I thought they would about conflict. But in the way, like one of them said, I think one of the questions was, why do you love this person? Why do you choose to be married to this person? And they really spoke about how it's almost like through the conflict, they still love each other. And that is the difference between a couple that is really set up to be long-term,
Sure.
a forever soulmate relationship. Because the couples that aren't supposed to last are the couples that don't have that foundation, that bond, that connection, and they don't get through conflict. They don't know how to get through conflict.
But I think there's also some, again, going from my own experience, like I left my first love, and I think it was an immaturity because when the romantic love phase was transitioning and there was conflict, I was just like I didn't decide to stay in and let it be growth. I decided to say, wow, this isn't what I signed up for. And it was an immaturity back then. And she's an amazing woman. We just spoke today. She's a therapist. And it's like, I'm like, wow, I just was that immature thinking like I idealized the whole thing and didn't realize that like I could have made the decision just as well. We have common values. We've had 4 great years. Let's just work at it. And then go into another phase of what love is, like you say, the different phases. But, so I think this day and age, a lot of people are subject to, oh, this doesn't feel right. Let me blame the relationship, blame the other person, instead of taking it as the opportunity to grow and heal.
Right. But at a core level, at a soul level, you also knew that she wasn't your forever. Whether you even consciously realized that or not.
I don't know. I couldn't see anything at that time other than that this doesn't feel very good.
Right.
Why doesn't it feel like it did last year?
And if you had, who knows if you had met her now, who knows? But you didn't. And that speaks to it just wasn't meant to be, and there's something higher and greater
I always
for
believe
you
that because,
out there.
I wouldn't have had my child, which wasn't with her. So,
But yeah, I believe that especially by doing that work, doing the work, and to really acknowledge who you are and to get to know yourself really is the key. It is so the key to manifesting anything and everything. And I acknowledge you for being this science guy, this doctor, and then moving into the mindfulness and this whole other world and incorporating them because you are setting yourself up for a lifelong, beautiful relationship.
Thank you. I hope so. It's my own medicine for me, so of course I believe in it and try and apply it and work in everything in life, right? Stay aware,
and
breathe.
Mike is actually going to be doing some workshops at Insight LA.
Yes, on
Want to tell us a little
just the roles of mindfulness in pain as a tool for pain and in chronic pain. So because in pain, one role of it is how your brain and mind is responding to it, and there's a lot of evidence, and we've had a lot of success with mindfulness as a tool.
I bet you've studied Joe Dispenza.
I've read some of his stuff.
Yeah.
Yes,
It sounds very.
It's wonderful stuff. I've taught workshops on mind-body connection at Esalen, and just demonstrated the roles of meditation and a number of things in combating pain, because there's pain just in terms of the nociceptive, like the stimulus going through the nerves, but there's how we're coping with it and how much we're suffering, and a lot of that is affected by how we think of it, how we relate to it, the fears associated with it.
The labels.
Right, exactly.
Of the diagnoses.
So, and mindfulness brings us into the presence with it, and there's many ways that it actually modulates how the brain perceives the pain and how we actually experience it. So that's a big part of the work I feel strongly about and look forward to sharing it at Inside LA. And
Inside LA. Do you want to tell our viewers where that is?
It's in Santa Monica on Pico or Olympic Boulevard, 20th or so.
Google it.
Inside LA. I think it's very, Googleable.
Googleable.
Right?
Is that in the dictionary? We're going to add it.
Yeah.
So with our few remaining minutes, I would just like to kind of dive into any last things that you would like to say to our viewers about if you could give advice to somebody who's out there who has never been married, or even anybody who is manifesting love, okay? What would you say is the best thing that you can do for yourself? Whether you've been married or not, or you're right out of college, or you're 85.
Okay. I mean, it's probably covered it a bit, but I would say making sure you're doing your own work to observe yourself. So, I feel a mindfulness practice or some practice where you're able to not react, because you will be triggered in relationship, no matter how great it is today. And the more you're aware of your own reactions and using your reactions to say, how could I improve myself, or what is that trigger in me? I mean, it goes very much back to Havel Hendricks, getting the love you want, right? Mm-hmm. So, but I think mindfulness allows that space to even get to that work, right? To be able to say, this doesn't feel good right now, instead of thinking what's wrong with them and what's wrong with the relationship and questioning it, own it and say, what could I bring and how could I raise my own game? Whether it works out or not, you're going to raise your own game as a parent, as a friend, in any human relationship. So just look at them all as an opportunity to grow, if that's your value. I mean, my value and priority is to grow.
Yeah, not everybody out there wants to. However, the way that we look at it, it can only help you in life to grow and get to know yourself. But everybody obviously has a decision. And then I would just like to say that mindfulness to me is being present. And so, like, if you can be present with yourself as you are manifesting a relationship, and or present in your relationship, just present in the here and the now. No stories in the past matter. Mm-hmm. Those stories, put them to rest.
No judgment. Right.
Yeah, no judgment, no stories. Anything, any insecurities, judgments about yourself or others, and just let it go and be present, because from this place, this is how we manifest.
Yes.
So I would just like to add that.
And to learn to be present, anchor in your body. When I say anchor, like, become very aware of your breath and learn to scan your body and your breath, and that will help ground you and give you that pause so that you can be present. I mean, it's sort of the first tool in becoming present. And
I feel like his voice is really great. So I haven't been to his class yet, but I'm definitely going to go. And I feel like if I did like a guided meditation, it would be really, really awesome.
I think I put people to sleep quickly.
And the little New York accent that comes through, I love it.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Please, can you tell our viewers again? Well, they know about Inside LA, but how can they, what's your website?
MichaelSinel.net.
Instagram.
DrMichaelSinel.net.
Instagram.
You could post it. Yes, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but Dr. Michael Sinel, Sinel. You could find me on social media. And I have a practice in Santa Monica on 23rd Street. So.
And he's pretty spectacular, so I'm honored you came on the show today.
Thank you very much, Jamie.
I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for joining us. And as always, you can email me at jamie@therelationshipexpert.com. That's JAIME@therelationshipexpert.com. Or you can go to my website, www.therelationshipexpert.com, or Instagram, therelationshipexpert. And that's it. Love you. Thanks for joining us.
Great.
You're listening to Love Talk Live with the relationship expert, Jaime Bronstein, only on LA Talk Radio.